Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another comic book review. We did one just yesterday, and today we're doing another one. However, today we are taking a break from our exploration of science fiction and science fantasy that we're doing this month in order to look at a different genre, basically. So today we're going to be doing a review on Spawn. This is the Origins Collection Volume 1, which covers the first 6 volumes, or the first 6 issues, sorry, of Spawn. However, the original trade paperback of Spawn only covered the first 5, and the 6th issue was covered in a different trade paperback. But these are kind of made for collectors, like for people that want to have every issue, which is really cool. I appreciate that. That's how I like reading comic books, chronologically from beginning to end, every issue, which is not always possible. So I really appreciate that from Image Comics. But Spawn is a very classic superhero type of character that I wasn't really that aware of until recently. My buddy Josh and Darth Penn both have recently gone into it, and I wanted to read it with them. So I picked up the first volume. And yeah, this is written by Todd McFarlane, and I think he does the drawing as well, with lettering done by Tom Orzechowski, colors by Steve Olive, Ruben Rude, and Ollie Optics, with covers by Todd McFarlane. And the paperback cover is done by Greg Capullo and Todd McFarlane again, so there you go. Now, the publisher's Image, as you guys can see right there in that lovely red color, or the demographic here is YA hitting adult fiction. Like, I'm not exactly sure. It doesn't actually come with a demographic label anywhere, but I would definitely say that this is slightly on the more adult side of things. I don't know exactly. I couldn't find it anywhere, but it's up to you to decide, basically. So yeah, I would put it definitely on the younger side of adult fantasy or adult fiction, or the older side of YA. It's all really muddy nowadays anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But like, there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of blood, and then there's some sensitive topics. So there you go. Now, the genre here, I'm not exactly sure what the actual genre is beyond superhero, which is like a really odd, all-encompassing genre. So I'll call it urban fantasy because it deals with this fantastical power and this kind of like demonology-based world-building setup in our modern world, or well, the modern world of when this came out, which is like the 80s, I think. But with fantasy elements in the city, right? So that's urban fantasy. Now, adaptations-wise, this has a show that was animated. I think it's on HBO. And there's also a few movies that came out, but I don't know anything about them. I don't know if they were good or bad. And, how people reacted to them, I'm not really sure. Don't really think I care, because I prefer the source material all the time anyways. So there you go. So the premise here is that this government agent, Al Simmons, died. And then 5 years later, we get the start of the story. So basically, he has been reincarnated as Hellspawn, or Spawn, and has this decaying body with this really messed up memory, like he has amnesia or something like that, and some weird ass powers that he has no clue how they work, and he doesn't understand them, but he somehow subconsciously uses them, right? And then we kind of follow him in the early beginnings of Spawn, of the superhero. We get to see all of the kind of like, it's not really coming of age, but all of the realizations and kind of like the weight of the fact that he is no longer human, but he's really not dead, but he has all of these powers kind of like setting on him and kind of like pushing him towards being a hero, right? Very interesting stuff. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. And I really liked the presentation for this. So yeah. Let's get into the review. The plotline here is good, and I do want to admit that there's a certain amount of confusion that comes with this plotline, but it's kind of like logical in the sense that like the character is confused, and we're seeing the story through the character, kind of. So it makes sense that we're confused as well. It's kind of a very, what's it called? It's very much in line with what you would see in modern isekai novels, I guess, where like you get put in the situation that you don't know and that the character doesn't know, and so you and the character are both learning about the world and the situation that the character finds himself in at the same time. And in doing so, you kind of get this kind of feeling of confusion that kind of arises from the fact that neither of you know what's going on, right? So, it's there, and if you don't really like that type of stuff, I would recommend that maybe you skip this story. But if you're fine with that and you don't really mind that kind of confused feeling at the beginning, definitely check this out, because the story unfolds really interestingly as he learns like his own story, as he remembers his background, and he gets situated in this kind of low action for a superhero type of story that kind of really evolves more into some sort of detective type of story, with like elements here of like the usual superpowered bad guy type of thing, which is really cool. I really did enjoy it, and I love that this is a very character-driven story. It's not all about the spectacle and the kind of like, oh, how do we get this bad guy to get beat up really cool? It's more about like this character is messed up, and he has problems, and he needs to fix them before he can move on with his new life, right? And so he goes through all of these things of trying to figure out who he is, and then once he figures out who he is, trying to connect with the people that he has left behind, realizing that they've moved on, and so he has to as well. There's a lot of cool, like, very meaningful people things that I really enjoyed. So, yeah. Now, characters-wise, I think they're, like, Spawn is badass, man. Like, I don't even know that much about this character, and the little bit that I did learn from him just lets me know that he's so awesome. He's so cool. He's crazy. His character design is badass. He as an individual is badass. He's just cool as fuck, dude. Like, Spawn is just awesome. I really don't have anything else to say about him. He's just so cool. But, yeah, like I said, he's a tortured soul, and he has this deep and meaningful kind of like problem that kind of echoes a lot of what we see in television today about that kind of like PTSD, tortured soldier coming back from the battlefield type of thing, which I guess is kind of like what this is supposed to be being an allegory for, or a kind of analogy for. I'm not exactly sure, but it definitely does come off that way, in a way that I really enjoy. It's kind of like very symbolic of this kind of like, what is it called? Like in the hero's journey and like the whole plan of how stories are supposed to unfold, there's always this part where it's like when they return from their adventure and realize that, you know, they are no longer like the normal people that they were before. And so it kind of turns into this whole like, okay, now I need to find my next call to adventure so I can return to that world where I fit in and stay away from this one where I no longer am welcome, right? And we kind of get this feel that he's going through this phase, and it's very interesting, and I really enjoy it because it's like meaningful, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it. It's just like a good kind of situation, because although it's not the same, you know, if you're around my age, you know, in your 20s, early 20s, you kind of have this type of feeling if you go off to university and then come back, and it's like, the things that I see around me are not not the same as they were before, because now I am different from when I was a teenager. What is going on? How do I kind of connect with all the people that, you know, I had here that I didn't have over there? And, you know, it's a very interesting kind of like thing that you can connect with that is obviously a lot different from, you know, what a regular person goes through. And so I like Spawn a lot. I think he's cool. There's also two other characters, I guess. There's the Violator, which is this really wacky ass like bad guy. He kind of reminds me of Danny DeVito, but like a clown. and he's just so weird. He's like really funny in a really like ugly way. And he's also fucking horrifying. Like, this dude is wacky as hell and scary as fuck, because this man is wild. Like, he's just like a little old fat dude that just like wants to destroy things and like what's it called, rampage and stuff. And it's funny because he like gets really interested in that, and he completely ignores what's going on around him, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, the Violator is a weird ass character that I really enjoyed. He's so odd. And he's kind of a nice kind of comedic foil to Spawn in a way that is kind of interesting, because Spawn is super serious and rather depressed in tone. So the Violator being kind of like as messed up as Spawn, but like acting in a way that's a lot more jovial and kind of funny, is an interesting kind of like I want to say juxtaposition, but like that's not very useful. What's it called? It's like an interesting what's it called, like opposite there between them two that is kind of fun. I like it a lot. Now there's also Malebolgia, which is the kind of Satan character, kind of. It's this really odd demon that's like kind of golden brown, or like golden yellow. I'm not really sure what color to describe him as, but he's very interesting. He has this giant like snout kind of thing, and he's very like weird, and he seems to be the one that's in control of Spawn, so it's very interesting. And yeah, there's also two other characters, I guess, which are the cop and his sidekick. Can't remember their names, but it's kind of like, they're kind of like the characters that that kind of ground the story, like the normal ones, but they're really not normal because they're cops, and so they kind of go about trying to do something, and they have to like fix the world, but they have to do it within the constraint of the law, and so the law doesn't allow them to do so, because the law, you know, is also kind of corrupt in this time period, according to, you know, the information we get from this. And so they kind of are going to develop a connection with Spawn, as far as I'm aware, like, you know, from what I can tell in the story. And they're going to get the opportunity to go outside of the law to kind of like fix their problems. So it's kind of interesting in that sense. I guess this would be kind of like Gordon and Batman. I'm not really sure. I'm not that interested in Batman lore, but I know a little bit about it, like in that sense. So yeah. Now the world building here is good. It's meaningful, but it is rather minimal. There's not that much going on. I mean, I don't really know where the devils or like the hell creatures come from, because they don't really seem to be like Christian or like what's it called, from Christian mythology. It's not like Lucifer and Satan and all of these other guys, and it's not demonology like in Black Clover either. It's kind of some weird like made up one that kind of is interesting, and I like it, and I'm kind of interested in it, but it's also kind of like weird because I don't know where I'm supposed to kind of like place this. But you know, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I really enjoy the cool transformation stuff, like between the Violator turning between his little human form and like the really creepy like alien looking thing. And yeah, I also really enjoy this aspect of a timer with Spawn's kind of like abilities. Like, he has superpowers, but only for a limited time, and if he runs out of time, you know, stuff will happen to him that is really not good, which is cool. However, I really disliked the news segment sections, which are giant, like, it was just pages and pages of like anchors trying to explain information for you that I really could have done without. Let me see if I can find it. Like one of these, it's like the second page. And it's just a bunch of information. And like some of it is useful and some of it is good world building, but the majority of it is dumb, and it's like useless because it just ends up being kind of like callbacks to other comic books. Like they mention what's it called, the Youngbloods, I think, which is an old superhero team that Image did comics for. And they also mention like Savage Dragon, I think it's what it's called. And so basically what ends up being is like advertisement for their other series, and not really good exposition, and I really dislike that, especially because static exposition like this with no action or conversation to guide it along is so boring to read. I just hate it so much. And I really didn't enjoy those. There was like 4 of them in this book. That's way too many like exposition pages that really don't provide any useful information. I don't really like them. So, you know, there's one thing I disliked about this. Everything else was freaking awesome. I liked it a lot. There was a lot of internal monologue, which is usually not the best. But because of the way that the story is set up, where the internal monologue is actually him trying to figure out his own problems and kind of like what's going on, it's okay. It doesn't end up being boring or kind of a hassle to read because you're also interested in learning about this stuff, right? So his monologue is useful to you as exposition. Now, the art here is badass. It's super cool. I love the coloring so much. Like, the way that this is, done is just so awesome. Now, it says here that there's certain things that have been recolored digitally, right? It says each volume also includes Spawn covers reimagined and vibrant new digital painted styles. However, I don't know if that actually also applies to the like actual art of the series, because this looks way too clean to have been done what's it called, like by hand. Like, it looks really crisp and these colors look really kind of like digital. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't look like it would be something that was done on paper, because the coloring is just kind of different from what I would expect from paper and ink, right? But it's so badass. I like it so much. Oh, let me show you one of the covers so you guys know what they are. Let me see if I can find a good one. The best one is, like, I think it was the issue 5. It's the one with the Violator's face. That one is super cool. That cover is really awesome. Let's see if I can find it. All right, there we go. It's this one. There you go. That's a digitally painted art cover. Doesn't really look different from the other ones, so that's why I'm saying, like, I think that this is all digitally colored, or at least recolored in a way to make it more vibrant. I'm not really sure. I don't really care either. I just think it looks really awesome, and I really enjoy it. And, you know, it's just really well done. I like it. McFarlane's art style is really nice. It has, like, slightly stretched out proportions as far as I can tell. But it's a very nice, kind of like very heroic feeling kind of style that I really enjoyed. I thought it was really good. Now, fanservice wise, there's none. This is not a very sexy or kind of like, what's it called, sensual story at all. This has almost no, like, nothing about it that can be considered, like, attractive. Like, the only female character that shows up that can be considered attractive is, like, Spawn's old wife. And she does show up in a very nice dress, but that's not really like fan service. That's just her like being pretty. So like, I don't know if that really works. But so I would consider that this story has no fan service at all. So this is totally safe in that sense. I mean, of course, there's also blood and gore and other types of things that maybe are not gonna be something that you like to read, but you know, there it is. Now, rating-wise, this is a 4 out of 5. It's great, it's unique, and I really enjoyed the tortured main character here. I thought he was really good. I really enjoyed him, and the powers and the art style, everything was just really nice, really enjoyable. There's a certain element of grittiness to it that is enjoyable, but doesn't go overboard and try to just be edgy and gritty for the sake of being edgy and gritty, like something like Chainsaw Man, which I like, but I don't like that much. So, there you go. Now, I definitely recommend this title. I think it's good. It's really enjoyable. If you do like those kind of like slightly darker superheroes, kind of like Batman, but like kind of like Spider-Man. I don't know. I don't know how to describe Spawn exactly. But I think if you like Batman, you'll probably like Spawn. And if you like kind of that darker, grittier main character type of thing, this is also for you. Similar titles though. Like I said, I'm not really sure. Chainsaw Man is the first thing that comes up to mind. But it's not very similar. Like, it's actually not that similar at all. But, I mean, it's all based around devils. And, like, the main character is essentially a devil as well. And there's kind of this dark, gritty tone. So, I guess they are kind of similar. But I wouldn't really say that they're that, you know, comparable. But, you know, there you go. If you like Spawn, check out Chainsaw Man. If you like Chainsaw Man, check out Spawn. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. See you guys later.